Hey guys, you might have heard the name Hans Niemann. This guy is a very famous chess player and he likes to say that he's a chess genius. Well, some chess pros are skeptical of this, but today I'm going to show you a brilliant game that Hans recently played in the Turkish Superleague. He played it at like 98% accuracy. He sacrificed some material in a brilliant fashion. And even if you don't like Hans, you gotta admit this was a beauty. And I'm sure you are going to enjoy this game. This reminded me of some romantic era of chess, 19th century, where people sacrificed pieces left and right. So let's dive into this. Hans is playing with the black pieces. He's playing Rauf Mamedov, who is a very strong grandmaster, rated 2650, and they play uh, the four knights. So this is a rather toothless opening for many because it leads to equality in all lines, but what can you do? Modern chess with engines, everything is equal. So d4 is one of the moves. Takes, bishop b4, pinning the knight. This is all standard and boring, but stay tuned, there will be craziness ahead. So both sides exchange knights. Black has a damaged pawn structure, but d5 is coming and there is sufficient counterplay for equality here. Bishop d3 is theory. Castles is also standard, I think. Castles and d5, all very, very standard. Bishop d2. And here, of course, you could expect this game to fizzle out to a draw very quickly, because many games in the two knights do. But not this one, not this one. So Hans takes and takes on e4. And he is a pawn up after this exchange. But white has this powerful dark squared bishop, which coupled with the queen can attack the black king. Also, black has weak pawns on the c file. This e4 pawn is also not feeling too comfortable. And when you have the opposite colored bishops, like in this position, light squared bishop for black, a dark squared bishop for white, it doesn't matter that much if you up a pawn or not. What matters is if you have the initiative and whether you have an attack. And here I think Rauf Mamedov was feeling kind of confident that he has something to play for. It's not a boring draw. So he has queen e2, attacking the e4 pawn, all logical. Rook a8 defends it, and now queen e3. You might think this is kind of a strange move. Why move your queen like one square when the queen is the most powerful piece and can move across the whole board? But there is some logic to it. So first of all, here, if black were to move, black would have gone queen g5, putting pressure on g2, threatening bishop h3. So queen e3 just prevents this from happening. Now black goes h6, some prophylaxis, looked for the king, and queen g3. All is in line with what I said. The queen is putting pressure on the g7 pawn, and actually checkmate in one is threatened. And black has, well, black can of course exchange the queens, and yeah, white can take this pawn, but it's nothing too special. Bishop f5, and this is equality. But Hans was feeling aggressive, and he went f6, which is a committal move because you really weaken the light squares around your king. They are all rather tender here. Thank God for black that white has just the dark squared bishop. So this pawn chain tries to restrict it. But still, the g6 square is up for grabs, for example. So this is a little bit risky for black. But still, it's equal according to the engine. Rook e1 puts more pressure on the pawn. Queen e7 overprotects it. And now queen e4. Some strange maneuvers with the queen. So queen e2, then queen e3, then queen g3, then queen f4. But this is a normal move, putting more pressure here. Now the queen is not needed on the g file because this bishop has been blunted. Pardon the wordplay. So queen f4 is a better square for the queen. Rook b8. Here Hans shows that he knows principles of chess taught in like the Soviet school of chess. You should put your rooks on open files. The b file is open, or at least semi-open, and the rook feels comfortable here. It has many more squares than it did on a8, where it had just one, just b8. So, okay, a4, all normal. Maybe it's a good idea to advance a little bit this pawn, to shove it. up black's throat. c5. Now, when you have a light squared bishop, it's good to keep your pawns on dark squares to free the space for the bishop where it can become more active. So Hans knows this and goes c5. Also, it's a little bit restricting white's movement, which is also sensible. b3. So white tries to put the pawns on the light squares because the opponent has the bishop of the light squared color complex. So this is all logical. Rook b6. Now this is an interesting maneuver from Hans. So he wants to activate the rook via e6 or d6 to zigzag like this to join the attack. Another way to play this would have been to put the bishop, for example, on b7 and then put the rook on d8 and do something similar like this if he wants even to triple up. But rook b6 is also a nice move, and actually the computer already prefers black somewhat. Probably because black is up a pawn and there is no longer any attack on the black position. It is black who will be attacking very soon. Complications are about to ensue. Bishop a5. Rauf does not want just to stand idly and wait. He wants to attack, to put pressure. If the rook retreats to, for example, e6, then the c7 pawn falls. It's not the end of the world, of course, but the computer wants to go rook c6, protecting everything. But this is so passive, and Hans did not want to do that. He went rook d6. Also, this is intercepting the queen's attack on c7, so c7 is not hanging at the time. h3. h3 is maybe not the most precise move, but it's useful given luft to the king. Computer prefers rook a d1, immediately fighting for this file and trying to initiate some initiative. Initiate initiative. Okay, my English is not is a little bit rusty. Okay, h3, f5. Here Hans decides to go forward to launch an attack, and already it's not looking good for white actually, because these pawns are very formidable. This bishop can join in via this diagonal. The rook, also f5, helps the rook activate via g6 in some variations. You will see that. So this is looking a little bit unpleasant for white. Of course, white can defend. Queen e3 is the top engine move. You put pressure on the c5 square, and maybe you want to go f4 in future to prevent these pawns from advancing. Queen f7 is a great move. He just disregards the c5 pawn because he wants to go f4, f3 and demolish white's position. This pawn, if it takes, then it opens up avenues of attack on the white king, and also the g2 pawn is vital because it is the base of the pawn chain, and h3 is protected by it. So f4 and f3 are automatic moves, should be played like instantly even in blitz. Queen takes c5. Here Rauf probably miscalculated something, probably underestimated the threats. Otherwise he would have gone f4 himself, and the position is, yeah, a little bit unpleasant, but of course defensible. Resources abound, so it should be a draw. This pawn now becomes a protected passed pawn, but you cannot advance it easily, and it should be a draw. But Rauf decided to take a pawn. Why not? He did not see an immediate refutation probably, and here the attack is rolling. f4. As I already said, this is like an automatic move. You want to go f3, you want to go queen g6 or rook g6, and you want to destroy your opponent. With opposite side bishops, opposite colored bishops, you have to attack. Queen takes c7. Yet another pawn falls prey to the white queen, but this is a mistake. He shouldn't have taken this pawn. Rauf shouldn't have been so greedy, because here something crazy happens. Queen g6. So obviously the idea of queen g6 is to take on h3 with the bishop, because the pawn cannot take since the king is on g1. And the best move here would have been king h2, for example, and the attack rages on, rook f6, for example, and you still want to go f3 or something like that, but it can be defended. But here Rauf decided to solve his problem in a tactical way, in a tactical manner. He thought that he found a great resource. Rook takes e4, and it looks really enticing. At first glance, I would have thought it's a great great idea, and maybe even black might feel a little bit uncomfortable after this. So the idea is that if I take the rook with a rook, this rook no longer guards the c8 bishop, and you just take it with check. And whatever you do, like rook h8 blocking the check or king h7, you have great compensation for the sacrificed exchange. You can go, for example, queen g4 is the line suggested by the computer. And if we trade everything, suddenly this endgame, well, it is a little bit more pleasant for black, but anyone can win this. You see those pawns, they are rolling. They will be rolling soon, and definitely there is no checkmate on the horizon looming, because you cannot just checkmate your opponent with 2 rooks if the opponent has a rook and a bishop and can defend, which Rauf certainly can. So this is a creative idea, sacking the rook for a pawn and a bishop here, but somehow I think Rauf just didn't see the response that Hans had, which is a brilliant move. Bishop takes h3. He just sacrifices the rook. He just sacrifices the rook on e8 because, of course, white takes, and black does not take back. Because if black takes back, white can take either the rook on d6 or the bishop on h3, both win. Well, queen takes d6 is the easiest. White is just up a rook, and there is no checkmate. There is no even queen g6 because this is guarded. So this is winning easily. So of course black doesn't take the rook. Black goes king h7, another great move. And temporarily white is up a full rook. White has 2 rooks. This rook on a1 might not look menacing, but it is a rook. And black has just 1 rook. So white is up a rook and a pawn, but there is a checkmate looming ahead. And it's not easy to defend. If you go g3, for example, you just get crushed. F takes g3. If you take, I take, and there is mate in 2, you can, of course, instead of taking, you can go like f3. But then you can, what can you do? You can take this rook. And if white takes, then again there are checkmates. This is checkmate in several moves. So white is suffering very much. After g3, it's also losing. It's already losing. Rauf finds another resource, queen b7. A nice move, protecting from afar. But here, this is a tactical trick called interference. You should know it if you like attacking. Rook c6, you interfere with this defense of the g2 square. And now white has nothing. White has to either give up the queen, which leads to a losing endgame, because this is hanging. You have to take here, but then I take your rook, and white has a rook and a bishop for a queen, but the king is so weak that it's completely losing. There will be queen g6 check next, forking the king and taking all those pawns or winning some other material with checks. So this is hopeless. So queen takes c6 was one way to do this. g3. Here Rauf uses another idea. And after taking, of course, you can not take on pain of checkmate in 2. So he is not taken back, but rather he goes queen b8. An interesting resource, he's threatening mate in 1. Rook h8 is mate in 1 because the king has no squares to go to. They are all taken by his own pieces and pawns. But it's black to move, so black continues with the attack. Taken with a pawn, with a double check, double attack on the king. The king takes back. Now rook c2 check is the most precise way to do it, because queen g2 check actually surprisingly leads just to a draw. There is no win here for black. King e3, and you can't find the killer blow because the bishop prevents the rook from checking over here. The rook prevents the rook from checking over here, so you can just check with the queen back and forth, and here you can block with the queen, and this should be a perpetual check according to the computer. And probably this is what Rauf found and thought that he can survive this. But definitely Hans also saw this, and instead of going queen g2 and spoiling this beautiful gem of a game, he went rook takes c2. He used another piece to join into the attack, and now white is absolutely lost. King e3, queen g5. Now, what to do here? If king d3, then there is bishop a5 check, and mate will follow shortly. For example, king d4, queen g4. If king d5, then you can go queen f3, for example. If you go this way, then you'll get checkmated like this. How to do this? This, and this is a checkmate, because the bishop, the queen, and the rook together are just restless, and this is a nice mating sequence. So if you go king d3, you lose. You have to block with the queen, but then there is a nice tactical shot. Can you find it? Pause the video if you want to find this. 1, 2, 3, rook e2. This is not a sacrifice of a rook because you win the queen. The king is overloaded, or loaded. It has to stay guarding the queen. Otherwise, the queen gets taken. But if the king goes here, then there is, well, there is actually mate in one. Queen g2. But there also would be a rook f2, also with winning the queen. So the king has to take, and now black just takes, and white has 2 rooks for a queen, but the king is so bad. The king safety sucks for white. And you can resign here, but Rauf made some moves. He tried to defend. He went bishop d2. Another move to try to hold on would have been a rook a to e1, trying to connect the rooks, but here you have also some mating sequences, or at least loss of some material. For example, bishop g4, and if the king goes here, queen f5 is a fork, and you win the bishop, and with it you win the game. So instead of rook e1, Rauf went bishop d2, attacking the queen, but still there are checks. Check here, queen g4 seals the deal, and white resigned, because what can white do? If white goes here, for example, there is queen d4 check, and it's a fork, and you win the rook. If the king goes here, then there is queen f3. If you go here, I win this rook in this way, queen h5, it's queen h1, so we have to go here, and then just bishop h3. You threaten mate on g2, and there is no defense. You can go rook e2, but I just take, and next time I mate you. So this all loses. What else can white do? White can go king e3, but then there is queen g3. White has to run. If white goes here, then this leads to a mate. This is fun, playing with the black pieces, this position. King f1, queen here, king here, bishop here, and again this will be a checkmate. So the king has to run to d4, but you can probably mate white, but you can just take the bishop and be up material and easily win it. So Rauf resigned, and this was a crazy game. I really liked the way HANS played it. I'm not a big fan of HANS, but I have to admit, in this game, he showed some great chess. Do you like Hans Niemann, by the way? Drop your opinion of him in the comments. He has won some games in the Turkish Superleague, and he's now rated 2710 in the live ratings. So he's getting closer to top 30 in the world, maybe even top 25, something like that, which is impressive. Of course, he has declared that he wants to become the world chess champion, which is still a long shot, but who knows? We will see. Stay tuned, check out other videos, subscribe, like, comment. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.